All right, let's talk about pipes. So, all right, so I'm going to do kind of a similar thing here. I'm going to just pick a point here. I'm going to pretend like I've got a storm drain line running down the street. So this time I'll give it an elevation of 100, and I'm going to call it S drain will be my code. I'm a little anal about capital letters and codes. And then let's just draw one more. I'll make it a different elevation of 99 feet. Same thing. So now we have point 10 and 11. I'm going to go back into my code table and I'm going to have to add a new code. And it's called S drain. Full layer, yeah, storm, misspelled. I'm not going to worry about that description right now. This is going to go on a layer called storm. And let's start by making it 2D polyline so the two of them connect together, and pick a different symbol. And storm, we'll pick the D. Now, just to start with, I've left this as a topo. I'll come back to that. And I'm not going to draw all again. 10 and 11. So you get that. I get a drain line connected with a line in between. So this could be set to by layer, and you could have a particular line type in there with like little D's, or like whatever you would normally do. So that's the way to do this without using a pipe feature, and you can kind of set this way up. One of the reasons why I really like the pipe feature is because there's been many times I've been asked to draw the pipes at the width that they actually exist. So if it's especially the larger ones, sometimes they say anything over 12 inches. So if it's like a 38-inch pipe running down a road, they want to see that on the plan, those widths, and I don't want to sit there and offset lines and draft that whole thing. So one of the things you can do with pipe feature is to take care of that and have that done automatically. So I'm going to edit this and change it from a topo feature to a pipe feature. And just like the tree, it now gets controlled with this pipe setup. So there's there's a general category. And if I make changes to this, it's going to use that for everything that is a pipe feature. So if you want to separate, you've got storm drain and sewer, and you could have other, pipelines that you might want to have treated differently. You can add the code name, and so it's specific to that code. So I'm going to add that in there. It's not cap sensitive. I am, but I can't seem to make it stray. So you have to remember to set to the S drain. Now it's going to make these, it's going to handle all these settings. So there's kind of a similar thing that when you code this and it's got the same answer to the GIS attributes or notes with rim equals inverse, whatever this are, or you can handle it in just description sequence. So if you're using description sequence, it's linear part of the code description, but it works the same way. So the rim elevation, I'm going to use the point elevation because I'm going to shoot, I typically shoot the rim and come back later and measure down to the invert and then get the pipe size and material. So I'm not going to bother with adding the code description to the pipe network, but the invert measurement then is to the bottom of the pipe. So we have this little L-shaped tool that you drop down into the manhole, and that way you can measure out perpendicular and try to get an accurate measure down without sticking a rod down there all slanted and everything. So that's the way I'm setting this up. And then it's the order that you're going to code this. So I'm going to leave it. I think this is a default. I play with this so much it might not be, but it's going to be the invert depth first, then the pipe size, and then the material. Then I choose what I want to have labeled. I'm going to turn the slope off for a minute, and I'm just going to have it labeled the length, the size, the material. And then you pick layers that you want things to show up on. So I have these layers set. And then the structures themselves, each structure is going to have options of what you want to show or not show. And what, prefix, suffix, if you want them strung out or on each individual row, those kind of things. You have options to do a data table that's similar to the tree table, or you can drop in a block, or you can actually label it along the pipe. I like the individual labels off to the side. So I say, okay, I'm going to edit those points to just put in there and demonstrate how to enter in the information. So in all honesty, this could end up, for me, this is usually something I do back in the office. I take the crew still goes out and does a sketch because they're out in the road sometimes and they're not going to take the time to type all this into the data collector. But they come back to the office and usually edit the points like this. So let's say it's a 5-foot depth. So it's S drain space 5. Then the next was the pipe size. We'll just say it's 12. It's set up to add the little inch symbol to it. So that was, the suffix already set in there. I think I'm going to go back and check that. And then the material, I'll just say it's an RCP. I'm going to leave this one blank just to show you what happens, because I'm going to forget that one. I'm going to go back in here real quick and look at the pipe label settings. The size is in inches, the material, and yeah, feet is, oh wait, S drain, material, and feet. Okay, so that's it. So we'll just see what we get. So, and I probably blew on by this, but that what you're looking at there, that pipe size with the dash dive, I like that. So I selected this type. So the polyline that you want drawn there, you can pick the different types of line work that you want. And you can even do 3D, which will draw it in 3D at the invert elevation, which might be handy for presentations and stuff. Or you can just use the way it's set up in field to finish, and it'll default to whatever you had set in field to finish. So you can select a line type there if you want. I like this one for storm. Now, it labeled it backwards because here's a rim, an in, an out, and I didn't put any information in here, so it's got the rim elevation. Everything's the same because I never put a depth. So if I just simply double click on this and add it to the code, same thing, it's a 5-foot depth. Now, I had already put 12-inch RCP here, so I'm not changing that. So all I need on this one is the depth. So now I've got the arrow going in the right way, and I've got a rim in and a rim. Now you can see I have an in and an out, and here I just have an out because there's nothing coming into it. So that's an option to not label the upstream top of line with an invert in. So let's add another point. So let's add one here, and let's give it an elevation of 98. So I'm going to go ahead and code this. I'll give it an invert of 5. Again, and draw that. So pretty simple. I got that much done. Well, this needs the invert in is the same as out. So let's change that. So most manholes aren't flat running through them. So that's 5 is the invert, the depth coming in. If I want to add an out, you do that by using a comma. So 5, and then let's just say 5.2. And it looks at these values and assumes in and out by that different. And now when I process it, now I get an invert in and an out that are different. So what if this pipe size changes? Well, it's a very similar approach. So again, this section is separated by commas without spaces. So you don't want to put a space in there. So now we have a pipe size. So there's a 12-inch coming in, and let's say there's a 24 going out. And okay. And then we have to tell this one, since we've done that now, that there's a 24 coming into it. So this section is 12 and this section's 24. I process that and I get the pipes drawn at the widths that they are. Now this little arrow and all of this is user defined. So I'm going to go back in. And again, this is this whole setup. So you'd have one for what I have one for storm drain. I have one for sanitary sewer, and they go really the difference is the line type and the layers that things go on. Everything else is pretty much the same. But if I come back now that I have inverts actually in, I can label the slope on the plan, and you can do it in percent or foot per foot. And so now I can add the slope to the plan as well. So it beats calculating the slope. That little arrow is a choice. It can go off to the side or it can go right on the pipe, or you don't have to have that if you don't want it. So if you're doing pipe, I really usually use this for as-built surveys. But again, some clients require that the pipes be drawn because they're looking for collision checks visually, that they're drawn at the actual width. So this is a nice option to have that done in there. Well, one of the things, and it's I guess I'll call it a little bit of a downside to this, is if you're a average field to finish user, you're used to doing multiple coding. Because of the way this is set up here with these is expecting the spaces, I can't squeeze another code in here and have it work. Because if it sees S drain, it's looking for the next values based upon the pipe setup. And if you don't have those in there and then add another code in there, it doesn't like it because it's not going to connect that. It's going to think whatever that code is actually the pipe material or something like that. So it does limit it works really great for the trunk line. So it does save a lot of time. And if you then have to, and this is another thing that I really like to take advantage of, but you have to have the Carlson hydrology module to use it to make any good use out of it. But you can actually create a pipe network, and it creates a .sew file that works with the hydrology network, and then I'll get a sewer network created, and I can plot a profile of the sewer as well. So I use that religiously for as-built because once I get all the information, because that's usually what I have to show on an as-built. It's not just the plan view. I've got to show a profile of the final pipe.